All right, guys, how we doing? Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Niko Palazeti, like Coach said. I have the distinct honor and privilege of talking to you guys today. I'm also the, what is my exact title? Director of Football Sports Performance here at UC. So, incredible opportunity to talk to you guys and kind of inform you on what we do, how we do it, and then ultimately, I'd love to answer any questions about our program as well. So, got a couple of things. First and foremost, just want to thank the entire team at Mondo. You guys are absolutely incredible. Coach Ethan, Natasha, Phil, Aaron. You guys are incredible people, and just really, really appreciate working with you guys throughout this whole process. It validates why we want to work with you. It validates the type of company you are, the reputation you have. So appreciate you guys very much. On top of that, I get to work with the best group of people in the entire world. Coach Chris Friend has been so important. He's probably running around doing something. But also, our whole staff we have makeup workouts, we have high needs. So if you see athletes cutting back and forth, I got 2 athletes right here in the friggin' attendance. I appreciate you guys very much, but the show's going on, so we're still training athletes right now. So if you see a guy or a group of young ladies as our interns working with athletes, just stop them and say what's up, and they can give you the real rundown of what our program's all about. But just get to work with an incredible group of people. Chris Friend, like I said earlier, he does an incredible job. Coach Brandon Garcia, Coach Scotty Ethington, who I saw earlier, and Coach Robo Williams. Those are our main staff, and we have a group of interns that do an incredible job for our program as well. So just want to give those guys a great shout out, and not only everything they do, but also putting on this clinic. So with that said, let's start talking shop. Here we go, let's get into it. I was asked to kind of talk about our program as a whole, okay? So I want to just give you guys a general overview of what we do, like I said, and kind of how we do the things that we do. Now, I'm going to be very, very general here. I'm not much of a presenter, I'm more of a conversationalist. So if you guys have any questions at any of the slides I go through, just say, slow your freaking roll, let's talk shop. And I would love to discuss in more detail. Okay, so this is how I want it to be. I want it to be interactive. I want any questions that you have to be yelled out. You don't even have to raise your hand. We're going anarchy, baby. There's no rules here. So, with that said, we're going to talk about our program as a whole. So, who are we? Who are we? I think it's incredibly important to, as a coach, to understand who you are and what your belief system is. Because regardless if you acknowledge it or not, your program, how you operate, your belief system, your methodologies, your philosophies, your ethics, whatever you want to call it as, is going to be an extension of who you are as a human being. So I think 1, as a coach, you have to understand who you are. 2, you have to understand what you believe in. And then 3 is, how can I take that and make that an extension of our program? Because ultimately, we all know this, right? It's about bench press, it's about running, it's about changing direction, but also, you're trying to impact the lives of the student athletes that you interact with. And being authentic to who you are and being authentic to a program as an extension of that, I think is really, really important. So number 1 is, I think we have to start with who you are as a person. So as a coach, who are you? This is my belief system. My core values are passion, integrity, and toughness. I pray that if you cut me open, that's what pours out of me. Now, I'm not that all the time, but I try to be. You know, that's what we're trying to do. And so for us, it's everything that we do has to be an extension of this. Everything that we do has to be passionate. Everything that we do has to have some type of integrity component to it. And then ultimately, we're a tough program, and we view everything through that lens. So I think understanding who you are, understanding what you believe in, is only going to drive the alignment of your program, okay? The culture. So people love to talk about culture. It's like the hot topic word, right? Everyone loves culture. Kevin, you probably love culture, don't you? Probably put that stuff all over. Probably brand that, huh? There we go, gotcha. I think culture is much more than a slogan, it's much more than a sign. I think culture is the performance environment that you create. Okay, it's what you feel, it's what's palpable for the athlete. And so we always say, our scale is usually there, right? So our scale is there. How an athlete walks down the weight room and what they feel the moment they enter this facility is going to propel them to have a great workout or not. Okay, and so it's what are they experiencing? What are they feeling? Okay, our core value as a team is E. It's effort, attitude, and toughness. So A, understand who you are, but B, understand the vision of your head coach, and then make sure that your program is embodying those values, right? So when they come down, is the performance environment that you're creating, Is it effort, attitude, toughness? Is it embodying what the coach and the program as a whole believes in, and then you have alignment from a whole program standpoint? Okay, and so like I joke, I watch legs come down those friggin' stairs. So I'm watching the way an athlete approaches the weight room. Do they enter the room with passion? Do they enter with energy? Do they move like this is the workout that's gonna change their lives, that's gonna get them a little bit closer to their goal? So that's a mentality thing, but that's effort, that's attitude, that's toughness. That is what we're trying to instill. And from when they come down, what are they experiencing? Are their coaches excited to work with them? Are they moving around with urgency and passion? What are they experiencing? Okay? From a workout standpoint, if we say we're going to be a tough program, but we expose them to no tough things, are we? Or are we hypocrites? If we say effort's important, we don't hold that effort to a standard, then are we failing them as coaching staff? So everything has to be objective. Everything has to have that point of emphasis in it. So really, what I tell our athletes are, I want an athlete to have a chip on their shoulder. I want to work with an athlete that has something to prove each and every day. I want an athlete that comes in and that wants to compete. And our program is designed for that type of mentality. Our program is designed to have a competition, pretty much. How many competitions do we do, guys? What, like I lose track. We literally post up all the results here. Usually this looks like a mosaic. It's like there's just signs everywhere and boards and charts and why. It's because if we're gonna be that's the performance environment that they have to feel, they have to experience, because that's what's important to them, that's what's important for our program's success. Okay, so culture is more than a slogan. It's understanding what the vision is from the head coach. It's you taking the practical steps and applying that in a weight room setting, and then it's you drilling it and making it as objective as possible. So it's you emphasizing that culture through a workout. And that's what I think the art of coaching is. That's what I think the art of being a strength coach is. It's really, really enjoyable. We say old school mentality with a new school approach. So I think from a cultural standpoint, we're old school. We're old school. I come from a blue collar family. I'm from Metro Detroit. My dad's whole family is in construction. My mom's a school teacher. So I take pride in my work ethic. I take pride in how I was raised. That's who I am. That's what I believe in. That's how I believe it should be done. But also, like I said, that's an extension of me, and that's an extension of our program, that old school, come to work every day, freaking have calluses in your hands, elbow grease, the whole shebang. We want to be tough, rugged people, and we're going to coach that way, and we're going to demand that standard. We're going to emphasize that through our training. But if you take a step back, if you aren't exhausting our resources from research articles, from new technology, from the most innovative way of doing things, and trying to exhaust our resources in that regard, then you are failing your athletes. Then you're being resistant to change, that you are being intimidated to progress, to potentially learn something new. And so I think there's a fine balance there. I think you should be culturally rooted in something bigger than the newest fad. But on top of that, you should be exhausting our resources to implement the most progressive, most innovative, and most really effective means of training. So it's a balance there. And I think having that old school mentality with new school approach is probably the best way to navigate that. And then ultimately, the standard is a standard. When I was in college, I played for and worked for, ultimately, a strength coach by the name of Ken Manning. Okay, and this dude's tough. This dude's badass. This dude said he's pissed at all four corners of the weight room, and I believed him. Like, that was his dog. Like, he ran that. Like, I was like, oh, snap. So when you walked in, you knew you were entering hollow ground. And that man was the chieftain of that hollow ground. And so I say that because I think as strength coaches, sometimes we get the title of enforcer, right? I don't know if that's fair or not, but I know that as a strength coach mentality, often our mentality is the person that is the upholder, the gatekeeper, if you will, of that standard. And I learned that at a young age. I learned that by watching Coach Manny. Coach Manny would navigate that room and navigate the individuals he's worked with, and he was the thumb up or the thumb down guy. And that was metaphorically, of course, but he was the one that kept the standard. And this was acceptable or this wasn't acceptable. And he did it with tough love. But because of that, you would have run through a wall for him. Because if you didn't meet the standard and he didn't give you his approval, I would have rather ran into traffic than let that man down. And that's the thing I learned at a young age. And I think it's an artful expression of maintaining the standard, making sure guys love you through the process, making sure that you enforce that standard, But in the process, it's your job to enforce that standard. And ultimately, if you want to view it, I try to view it, I'm a visual learner. If a rep isn't done properly and you don't correct it, ultimately you are failing that athlete. You are letting that athlete down. Whether it's a lack of confidence to confront that issue, or it's you want to look the other way because sometimes conflict makes you vulnerable as a coach. Whatever that issue is, ultimately it's your job to enforce that standard. And you can do it in multiple different approaches. But if you refuse to meet that standard, if you refuse to let that standard, ultimately in the long run, you are failing that athlete. And you are failing the program as a whole. So that's the challenge, right? The challenge is, from a cultural standpoint, is one, are you mindful of the performance environment that you're creating? Because we're all creating it. Are you in touch with who you are as a coach and making sure that that's authentic to the performance environment? Also, what do you stand on? What do you stand on as a coach? Do you have cultural values that are rooted in who you are, that are rooted in something bigger than yourself, that are rooted in something more than the latest trends, but also are exhausting our resources to find the most innovative approaches to training? And then lastly is, what are you upholding? What are you upholding? What are you demanding? What are you tolerating? If you're not tolerating, you get what you emphasize, you get what you tolerate. That's a Coach Mickey Marotti-ism. It's a great saying that when I worked at Ohio State that I used to hear all the time. It was, you get what you tolerate, you get what you emphasize. So you have to be very, very mindful of what are you emphasizing, what are you tolerating. And if you are tolerating something that's below that standard, then you're enabling it, and ultimately you're failing that individual athlete, and ultimately the program as a whole. Any questions there? I'll get off my soapbox. Okay, here we go. Now, what is Experience Daily? So what we did was we just put up a generalized schedule, just a very generalized schedule, okay? Ultimately, we always make meals mandatory, okay? So from a training standpoint, we make meals mandatory. We train in 30 or 90-minute to 2-hour blocks. We usually have team runs in the afternoon, if not before the lift group. We have academics, and we always try to give them a food after. Why do I post this? I'm putting this up to make a statement, okay? Well, the way we approach training is, how much are you training in a day? An hour and a half, 2 hours at most, 2 hours? So if you're training for 2 hours, my question to all athletes, my question to our staff is, what are you doing with those other 22 hours? Because you can have an incredible program. You can make the best program possible. You can coach it till you're blue in the face. You can make sure everyone is doing every rep perfectly. But if the athlete isn't maximizing the other 22 hours in the day, then this is completely ineffective. And so what we like to do is we call it a performance routine. A performance routine. And what that is I was blessed enough to work at Ohio State. I kind of referenced that earlier. And I was around some of the best football players in America. Some future Hall of Famers, some elite level football players. But also, I was around equally talented football players that didn't have success. And I would always struggle with that. I would always struggle with, why do some athletes have success at the next level, and why do some just bounce right out of the league? Why do some athletes get second contracts, and some don't make it through their freshman or their rookie year? The thing that I kind of comprehended was, what your job is as a strength coach is to teach them the life skills to have success at that next level. And what does that look like? Really, it's that performance routine that I referenced earlier. And so if the athlete comes in, trains, you hand them a protein shake, you dab them up, and you say, see you in 22 hours, then you're probably letting that athlete down. Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a routine in their day in order to maximize that whole 24 hours. So let's just take a practical look, okay? When our athletes come in, we have, now mind you, we have resources that most don't, but get my drift here, okay? Catch my drift. This is what we're talking about, Mitch. When an athlete comes in, we have dietitians that can prepare food for them, a specific meal, and you have to eat 30 minutes before you train, okay? Because our workouts are hard, and if you don't eat, you go night-night, but also, we're trying to teach fuel properly before you work out. After we work out, we make protein shakes mandatory. Then from there, we have lunch provided. You're gonna go check in, get some type of activation, some type of treatment, some type of maintenance from an athletic training standpoint. If you have treatment, you have to go see the athletic trainer. That's mandatory. You have to check in before 12:30. From there, after we train, we have mandatory or optional high needs, which is we have cards based on weak link issues. So if you have bad shoulders or groin or hips or whatever it is, lower limb, we are going to have a program to increase mobility or strengthen any of those individualized needs we have for you. We have football maintenance in here, so we have jugs going, we have difference, we have guys snapping and throwing the football around. After that, we have coaches working with our student athletes outside. They're meeting with them. Then we have academics and sports science and sports psychology as resources, always available. So what does that look like? That 2-hour workout now becomes a full day event. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to instill a routine over the course of the day. So ultimately, over time, that routine becomes ingrained in their soul. And then ultimately, over time, when you remove the infrastructure of college athletics, our guys know how to handle themselves like professionals. Our guys know what it looks like to have success. The results, A, are expedited in college, but also on top of that, they're going to have the life skills possible and necessary to have success at the next level and then ultimately in life. So that's what I like to show this slide for. Yeah, we do a lot of things, that's great. But also, we're trying to structure out the entire day and create a routine over the course of time to maximize the results here, hopefully lead to great on-field success, great personal success, and then ultimately at the next level, continue that routine when the infrastructure is removed. Questions there? Varn, any questions, Varn? Okay. All right, let's talk training here. Now, I'm gonna go super vague and then yell it out, okay? I say we do 6 things incredibly well here. That's kind of my saying here, okay? We run fast, we lift hard, we jump high, we carry things, we throw things, and we compete. Now, the emphasis and the focus of each of those 6 things matters on what time of the year it is, okay? We are a running-based program. We are a running-oriented program. There's a couple of reasons why. Number one, if you just lift weights all the time, you're gonna look like me. And I'm a little outdated model. I'm last year's model line, if you know what I'm saying. I played fullback in college. This thing is outdated. This thing's like the 1990 Oldsmobile Colors. It doesn't really have any practicality anymore. I digress. The point is the game's played on the field. On top of that, the distances, the speeds, the freaking player loads, the amount of reps we play now in the game of college football has expedited so much. And so if you're not exposing your athletes to the distances and the speeds necessary for the demands that they're going to be getting into, aka spring ball or fall camp, then you as a strength coach are preparing to prepare them or failing to prepare them ultimately for the overall goal. So how we view it is we need to meet the on-field demands first. So that's our main emphasis. So we're going to run the frequency of what we're preparing them for. So let's take a step back. In spring ball, you get three practices a week, roughly 3 practices a week. So we're going to have about 3 running exposures a week. When we get to fall camp, you're going to be practicing 4 to 6 times a week. Okay, and it's a 7-day time span. So what do you have to get them ready for? You're going to run with that frequency. Now you can't, and we do run pretty much every day, but the duration, all those things are going to be limited just based on the 8-hour rule or your compliance or whatever it is. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to microdose running throughout the week and get them exposed to those demands over the course of time. So when we do transition to a fall camp, our guys are used to handling those loads, used to handling that frequency, and also used to maintaining body weight and recovering and doing all those things necessary to get them ready for it. So if you take a step back, number one, we view everything through the running process first. Okay? We're going to have always an acceleration emphasis. We're always going to have some type of max speed velocity emphasis. We're always going to have some type of change of direction emphasis, and then we're going to have some type of sprint repeatability emphasis, aka we're going to condition. So that's kind of our block. That's how we kind of view running, okay? And then from there, we get a little bit more creative. Any questions with running there?
Every one of those is touched every time they show up or throughout that week.
Throughout the week. Now there's obviously overlap.
Yes.
There's always going to be acceleration in all 4 runs. We get
Yes.
that. There's always going to be some type of change direction in all 4 runs. But there's a day emphasized for all that.
So, Coach, I know running's changed over the last 6 to 8 years
Yeah.
with college regarding volume of running. Could you talk a little bit about special populations, athletes that you deal with when it comes to running and prescribing running for them?
That's a great question. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
This is great. This is awesome. This is perfect. Great question as well. Yes, so how you have to be running is, I think if you don't Catapult and Zebra have opened our eyes to what the loads are of our athletes. It's not uncommon for a wideout to run 7,000 yards in a practice. Not uncommon, 8,000 yards in a practice. It's not uncommon. Player loads of 800. So what you have to do is you have to make sure that they're expressing those demands. Now, what's the limiting factor? What's always going to be the limiting factor? You have a 2.5 to 3 hour practice. You can never get that amount of time. So what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to attack intensity. Okay, and so you will always, as a strength coach, always get the intensity necessary because we're going to be exposing them to more intense bouts in a shorter duration of time. So that's one. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is we're trying to view practice as 5,000 yards. And literally, I just had a meeting with Brendan, he's kind of more of a sports science mind, so we talked about this literally today. So if you view each practice as roughly 5,000 yards, okay. Okay, well, how many practices are you going to be going in a split? Well, our first week of practice, we had 25,000 yards, our first block of practice for fall camp. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to get about 80% of that, 90, as close to that as possible. Now, we know we can't do that, but we're trying to get the distances required of that. Okay, so we're trying to get them anywhere between 15 to 20,000 yards next week. And then we're going to, sorry, Brian, I'm telling you guys that now, sorry, Connor, but we're going to back down off that the week leading up, so we have 2 weeks left. So what are we trying to do? We're trying to identify what the demands are going to be, okay? And then beyond that is we're trying to get them as close to that workload as possible. But knowing our limitations are, we'll never get that distance because we don't have the time. Okay, so that's one thing, is distance. We're trying to give them exposed to as much distance as possible throughout the week, and ideally we do it 2 weeks out. That's the highest distance that we're going to get. Then there's an intensity component to it. Okay, and I'm going to touch on this in a second. But if you're not sprinting, 90%, or roughly, there's arguments, basically 88 to 90% of your max speed every 7 to 10 days, you're at potential injury risk. Okay, so what we're trying to do is we're trying to get both of those things in. We're trying to get intensity exposure, and we're trying to get distance over the course of that week. Okay, dosed all throughout evenly. We obviously have a conditioning day that's going to be a little bit more of a spike in volume, but overall we have a speed day, we have some type of conditioning day, and then we're using that frequency to try to just work that ceiling up, that floor up, I guess. Does that kind of answer your question, Coach?
Thank you.
Any other questions there? When we transition in the weight room or on the field, there's always going to be a plyometric emphasis. We're always going to probably jump or medicine ball throw, but usually horizontally, rotationally, and vertically. Then from there, there's going to be an Olympic-based variant almost every day. Okay, there's going to be a clean pull from the floor, a hang clean. We do clean complexes. We do shrug and snatch complexes. We do push pressing. We do a power jerk. We do different variations. And it's just based on the training age and maturity of our athletes. But we usually start the workout with some type of plyometric and some type of Olympic variation. Mm-hmm. Then from there, we go our strength-based movements. Our strength-based movements are just bare bone basics. We're going to squat, we're going to bench, we're going to do pull-ups, we're going to do overhead pressing, we're going to do pulls from the floor or deadlift variations, usually a sumo deadlift. And then from there, we're going to do a bunch of accessory movements to prepare our soft tissue, to give ourselves size and strength necessary to run into full human beings at full speed. That's really it. And then from there, there's always going to be a finisher. There's always going to be some type of competitive element to the training. Any questions there? And we can get in way more depth here. I don't want to take up too much of your time there, but that's kind of our training mentality. We're going to do what we do really, really well. It's going to look like training. It's going to sound like training. It's going to feel like training. It's not going to look like Cirque du Soleil. When you walk down the stairs, there's not going to be people hanging from the ceiling doing cartwheels and stuff. We take very much pride in doing very basic things at an exceptionally high level, coached incredibly hard through a full range of motion with great tempo. And then from there, we're going to be coaching, demanding, and then encouraging. Really, we hang our hat on two things too as well. I'm going to take this 2 steps back. We hang our hat on rep integrity and brotherhood. Those are the 2 things I say we rest our hat on. So rep integrity. Are the movements done soundly? Are the movements done with great technique, with the right tempo? Are the movements done are you moving in the weight room with the urgency required to maximize your freaking goals? So that's another thing. Like when you walk in, do you have integrity throughout the whole entire workout? Are you moving with purpose? Are you moving deliberately? Are you working with the right technique? And then brotherhood. Are you demanding that same standard to your brother? Because if you're coaching, when I'm coaching, and someone's not doing a chin-up through a full range of motion with the right tempo, am I going to yell at the guy doing the chin-up, or am I going to yell at the guy watching him? I'm going to yell at the guy watching him. So I'm going to be attacking lift partners. And that's what I think we do a really good job of, is our partners coach hard, and they demand that standard. And when you have 5 coaches or 2 coaches, that's okay. But when you have your whole entire room demanding that standard and coaching each other up and watching your strength presentation, that's freaking awesome, then you know that that standard is going to be enforced. So any other questions there? Yes, sir. Go. Here we go.
Niko, you said you lift hard, run fast, jump high, throw far. What were the other 2?
It was run fast, lift hard, jump high, carry things, throw things, and compete. That's it, baby. That's all I got. That's all I got. We do it. We do it with great intensity.
That should have been the slide.
That should have been it. That should have been it right there. That's all I got. And we take pride in how we do it.
Hey, Coach, so
Yes, sir.
talking about finishes, are you doing a finisher on every conditioning day and lift day?
That's a great question. Okay. It's a great question. I can give you our weekly. There's always going to be a competitive element to the workout, even if it's like micro dose thing. So it could be a chin-up competition. On your last set of chin-ups, do as many as you can. And then, or beat your best, or just some type of competitive, fun, engaging element. And then Monday, for the run, we'll do some type of combative thing, some combative element. On Tuesday, we call it one more rep. So that's a weight room finisher. And usually it's creative. It's usually makes the guys have to work together, and it's overall winner loser based on your group. So that could consist of bike sprints. That could consist of D-ball, med-ball, clean, domino format where it rolls down the line, rolls back. We try to be innovative, creative. We want everyone to come in not knowing exactly what they got. And then they look at us like, you crazy? Like, you guys came up with this crap? We have, I take that back. On Monday, we have a thing called the Spotlight Challenge, which is they come in, and then any time in the workout when they hear music, it's going to be a competition, and we break our group up into crews or lift, or we break up basically our team into other teams, and so it's a member from each team, and they're competing against each other in one-on-one. So we come up with some stupid stuff. We did my favorite was a D-ball, so like an 80-pound med ball, hugged to the chest, and they had to go put their heels against the DC block, and they had to do a wall sit, holding a med ball, and then the minute their butt hit the box, the DC block, they were out. And so the whole team's gathered around, yelling, going nuts for their representative. We did a vertical jump test, which was just old school. It was first guy jumped, they did rock, paper, scissors. Whoever lost got the jump first, and then whoever gets higher, you jump until you miss. Second man, you touch it, you beat them. So like old school fun things. It takes 3 minutes, but it's engaging, gets people going. On Wednesday, we do some type of competitive environment. On Thursday, we do a conditioning competition. It's basically, you have to execute the rep, and you have to beat your team time, or you have to go crew versus crew, whoever can execute better while being fatigued. And then Friday, we do a big finisher called our Final 15 finisher, and that's collectively as a group. So each day has, to answer your question in a very indirect way, each day has a theme. Each day is either field-oriented or weight room-oriented, and we try to make it fun and engaging. They know what they're going to get each week, but the elements of that finisher changes all the time, just to keep them on their toes, I guess. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want you to affirm yourself, okay? And kind of like what you're talking about. Are the kids tougher because you're here?
Oh,
So when you first saw them, because you kind of fresh when you showed up, is this a tougher group of kids? No offense to anybody fast.
yeah. Can you ask them? Bar, are you tougher than you were when you got here?
I wanted to ask.
Huh? I think there's 2 types of toughness. I think there's a acute toughness. Can you do a hard thing in the moment? Can you push through that wall sit or that lactic fatigue? Can you hold a push-up position? Can you execute a conditioning session while your lungs are burning and your legs are burning out and your back's tight? Okay, that's acute toughness. There's also chronic toughness. Can you train We trained 8 weeks, 10 weeks unofficially, and everyone's here for the 10 weeks. Can you train over a chronic time and bring the same effort, attitude, toughness, and urgency throughout the entire process? That has been the thing that I take probably the most pride in, is our guys can come to work each and every day with a new mindset despite past and current fatigue levels and keep pushing through. So probably, I would say that's the thing I think I'm probably most proud of, and our guys have really embodied and embraced that. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
How do you pick your crews?
Oh, okay. So, I'm getting into it now. Sorry, guys. How we do it was we have 6 guys picked from the coaching staff. So six elected captains from the coaching staff. Then, those 6 members had to pick different position groups. So if I was a lineman, I have to pick a skill and a big skill representative. So each crew has 3 captains in each position group, correct? Then we have a draft, and the first thing they do is they draft their coaches. So they draft football coaches. And so from there, we have our crew situated. The next day, I present what the off-season or preseason program is going to be. So we're all on the same page. Everyone knows exactly what the expectation level is. There's no punches pulled. From there, then we draft crews. And then on top of drafting crews, what we do is we have the coaches involved as well. Because what we do at the end of each week, we call it win the week. So that's how you pick your teams, right? Each week, it goes from Wednesday to Thursday. At the end of Thursday, what you do is you name the crew winner, you name the losing crew, and then you name the bottom 10, the 10 people of that week that have lost. So there's praise and enjoyment and happiness for the winning crew, and then there's a we call it competitive encouragement for the losing crew. That's at 5:30 a.m. on Friday morning. And so it's not punishment, it's meant for performance ownership. Well, why do I do that? And why is that important? Number one, you have to examine yourself. Just like you win or lose a game, the next week it wipes clean and you have to reset it. And so, did you learn from your mistakes? Did you learn from your victories? How can you enhance the performance? Number two, the coaches who are elected in that crew are the ones that are there Friday morning at 5:30. And I have a saying, if you want to be a pig farmer, you better smell like shit. And I say that because sometimes football coaches, God bless them, they love to kind of sit back. And I say, no, if you're going to be a football coach, you need to be so invested in your athletes that you need to know exactly what's going on. And how do you do that? You raise the stakes for them. So guess what? If your crew is underperforming, guess what? You're in it with them. So you better wake your ass up and be at these workouts and make sure your crew's doing it. And if your crew is late, if a member on your crew is late, guess who it costs? It costs you. Because guess what happens in a season? We're all in it together. We're all aligned. And everything impacts everybody else. We have a thing called program win and loss. Program win and loss. If you make a team time, okay, great. But if you don't make a team time, the whole program suffers. So if you're on that field, and I tell people, if you're bashful, go hide in the bathroom. Well, I let everybody know. Like our new dietitian interns who are sitting there like this, I'm like, if you feel uncomfortable, be ready, because if you're on this field, we're all doing up downs together. And so they're in it, everyone's in it. And guess what? If you win, awesome, you get to enjoy that. But I think people forget, losing hurts everybody. Losing hurts everybody, and we're all in it together. So if we lose that drill, guess what? Everyone on the field, from the guy holding the video camera, from the dietitian holding a banana, we all do up downs together. From the young coaches on Exos, whatever it is, we're all doing up downs together. It was long. Great. Okay. Any other questions there? We've got like 3 minutes. I'm sorry, Coach. Readiness and reporting. Okay. Readiness. Are you getting your athletes ready for the demands of their competition? We address performance preparation from a training standpoint in the same regards that we are preparing to get them ready for a game. So body weight's measured daily. We do activation before training. We approach training as if it's before a game. That's the stakes that we want to. Why is that? So the guys have their routine when it comes time to the game. Okay, there's always going to be adrenaline standpoint, there's always going to be nerves, but can you be at your body weight every day? Can you hydrate properly for each workout? Can you eat the meals beforehand? Can you go into the training room and do a activation routine? Can you come in early and take care of your body and treat that workout as if you were treating a game? That way, that unknown and that stress of the game is already addressed because you have a performance routine that's ingrained in your soul. And then the back end of training is sports science reporting, okay? And really, what is that validating? That's validating a couple things. Are you accurately meeting the demands that you're trying to meet? Are you progressing in the way that you're intending to? And then are your athletes getting the results that you're programming for? And so I think this is just a great way to validate what we already know or what we think we know, okay? I think sports science is really interesting, and I've seen sports science done a lot of ways. The best thing I learned from Coach Mickey Marotti was you have your core values. You believe in what you believe. Strength and conditioning should only be a piece to enhance those things. You should not change your belief system in order to adapt a sports science technology. Does that make sense there? And I think a lot of times we change how we do things because of an objective number tells us to. This is a tool to help us do our job better, not a tool to change who we are and what our belief system is. And I can get way more depth about that or what we do if you guys want, but I know I went on a tirade there, so I want to be respectful of your guys' time. Now, there's 3 ways to train a college athlete. I don't know if you guys know that, but there's 3 ways to train a college athlete. Really, there's 3 ways to train any athlete.
Silverbacks up there.
Yeah, we got some bigger guys there. But the first thing, okay, is going to be generalized. All college-age football players specifically need to be fast. They need to be strong. They need to be able to express power vertically and horizontally. They need to be able to change direction. They need to be able to do all these generic things, right? And theoretically, if you make them stronger and leaner, they're going to get faster. They're going to be a better football player. So there's generalized things that if you address right off the top, if you're going to make an athlete stronger, theoretically, they're going to be a better football player. Just call a spade a spade. So there's generalized things that all athletes need, and if you can address those generalized needs, they're going to be better football players as a whole. But then, if you take one step down, right? General, you take one step down, well, now there's position-specific needs. I can't train O-linemen the same way I would train DBs. Why? Because distances are different on the field, player loads are different, weight room expressions are different, muscle size, muscle mass, all those things are going to be different. And so we need to train them based on the demands. So a cool thing that I think we like to do is we like to look at what the NFL says. Okay? So this is our standards of excellence. Basically what it is it's based off of NFL metrics. So it's based off the combine numbers. Of the best football players in America each year, what is the gold standard for those numbers? What is the gold standard? What is the ideal running back or DB or say, these are just guidelines, linebacker. This is generally what the ideal number would be, okay? Of that, where are our athletes in comparison to those gold standard numbers? How can we enhance their training and their individualized performances to get them as close to that gold standard as possible, okay? So we use this as a reference point, and we use this to also modify training needs based on where our guys are at as a whole. And then individual, okay? Generalized, position specific, and then individualized training needs. And this is where sports science can really become handy and really become a great tool because we do force plate, we do catapult, we use perch that measures velocity and power output. We use force frame, we use, basically, if there's a technology out there, we dabble with it. Okay, and what does that say? That shows us where our athletes are currently at, where they're deficient at, where their strengths are, and then ultimately if there's any potential injury risks. And so what we're able to do there is we're able to kind of inject individualized training prescriptions based on where they are as individuals. So what we do is we have high need days. So in a workout, in the week, we have days, Wednesday and Saturday, designated to those high needs. So what we'll do is we'll bucket workloads and we'll bucket prescriptions of if you are a weak link hamstring guy or if you are a weak link power output guy, well, we have a prescription for you when you come in based on your individualized needs. And then also on top of that, in the workout, are you strength deficient? Are you power deficient? Are you short stretching, reactive strength deficient? And then we can have protocols based on where you're at as an individual, based on those needs as well. So if you look at it from the whole scheme of things, everyone needs to get stronger, theoretically, to a point. But strength is usually the glass ceiling. If we can get you stronger, great. Then, take it one step down. Okay, we're gonna focus on you as a position group. What do you need? How can we make your position group as prepared for the demands you're going to be facing in camp or in spring ball as possible. And then lastly, we're going to use sports science to tell us where you're at as an individualized athlete and how we can help your individualized performance. Cool? And then the last thing we're going to talk about is just, we call it the Iron Bearcat Awards. But basically what this is we all know this. Training, prescription, training, workouts, whatever you want to call it. What you do matters, but the intent and the attitude towards your training is absolutely essential for your program success. And so what we like to do is we like to recognize those individuals that embody our culture and train with unquestionable effort, attitude, toughness, and leadership. And we celebrate those guys at the end of the winter and at the end of the summer training periods. Okay, and we like to celebrate and recognize the guys that not only do what is asked, but do what is asked with incredible ownership and embody to our standard. Because this, we have a saying, our most talented players have to be our hardest workers and best leaders. And if you have that, if your most talented players are your Iron Bearcats, then you have incredible opportunity for success. Because from there, everything else falls in line, because everyone else believes, they believe it in their soul, that if I'm talented, but I do these things, then I will have success. And that's when culture really starts to run itself and become player-led. But did a lot of talking there. I appreciate everyone's attention. If there's any questions, please ask them now. Coach, you gotta have one, Coach. Nothing? I answered them all that thoroughly, huh?
Coach, how often will you take player initiative leadership into challenges, competitions, finishers, if at all?
That's great. Almost every time. We like to give them, I think a thing that we like to do really well is you create, it's almost a game. You create a generalized structuring of the rules and you allow them to work the pieces together. So, for example, we have a thing called the final 15. So what you have to do is you have 3 stations. Each has a minimum threshold you have to meet. So there's bikes. In 5 minutes, you have to hit 50 calories on the bike. There's a sled, and you have to tow it. You have to go 400 yards in 5 minutes. And then there's stadium steps. You have to do 4 intervals under 5 minutes. Now, there's also another component to it. The individualized athlete that gets the most calories, the most distance, and the most stadium steps also gets points for the crew. So you beat it, you get points. But also, your highest achievers get points. And then, if we all get it together, then it's a program win. If we lose, program loss, up downs. So there's 3 components. There's the individual, there's the crew, position group, however you want to word it, and then there's the team. And so how they structure it. Hey, you gotta split on this one, I'm gonna lay back on this one. Or you get the component, but there's always gonna be some type of strategy. There's always gonna be some type of strategy. Bike sprints. You have 50 calories. 3 guys have to touch the bike. I don't care how it works, but 3 guys have to touch the bike. You have to get 50 calories. All 3 have to be on the bike and get off the bike. By the time they get off the bike, hand up, whoever wins first goes. So you're gonna put your muscle, he's gonna go 35 calories, and the second guy's gonna jump on. They're gonna rotate on and off. They're gonna solve the game. And what are you trying to do? You're trying to take ownership, but you're also making them work together, problem solve, and then be connected to the whole process of it. So I think the best way to do it is give them very broad structuring, make them problem solve, make them do it again, and enhance it. Make them communicate, make them problem solve, make them analyze it, get better. That's what football is. What else you got?
Your in-season tailoring for competition, do you keep it at the same level, or do you dial it back?
We dial it back. We dial it way back. I think we do a really good job of we take the backseat, because we have to, right? But I think our intention is we want these habits to become so ingrained that that momentum carries through the season. So that's the goal. That's the intention. So body weight stays really important. We still measure all the same things, but the focus is ball. The focus is the motivation changes. It's no longer about points. It's about performance, and it's about team success. And so I think you create that competitive nature. You create that performance routine, and then, God willing, you do it with so much momentum that it carries you to December. You know, So we take the back seat, it becomes much more structured and much more performance oriented. And then hopefully those traits learned carries through the season. All right, thank you guys, I appreciate it.